Good evening, everyone. A few years ago, my life looked too predictable. I had a stable 9-to-5 job, a steady paycheck, a routine that felt safe, but also quietly limiting. Every Monday looked like the last, and every Friday felt like a temporary escape. And yet, there was this persistent question in the back of my mind. Is this really it? Not because the job was bad, but because I knew I had more to create. So I started small. There was a time when everything in my life looked too fine, not amazing, not terrible, just fine. I had a stable job, a predictable routine, and the kind of life that looks responsible from the outside. I would wake up, go to work, sit through meetings, come home tired, and tell myself, at least I'm secure. But somewhere in between those quiet moments, during my commute or staring at a screen, I felt it, a quiet discomfort. Not loud enough to alarm me, but persistent enough that I couldn't ignore it. It wasn't dissatisfaction with my job. It was something deeper. It was the feeling that I had more to give, more to build, more to explore. And yet, every day looked the same, safe, structured, predictable, and slowly, that predictability started to feel like a cage I had willingly stepped into. One day, I asked myself a question that changed everything, not dramatically, not instantly, but permanently. I asked, is this really it? And I remember pausing after that question, because for the first time, I didn't rush to answer it. I let it sit, I let it be uncomfortable, because deep down I already knew the answer. This couldn't be it. Not because the job wasn't enough, but because I wasn't done growing, and that realization didn't come with clarity or a plan. It came with uncertainty, with doubt, with fear, but also with something else, possibility. The kind of possibility that doesn't show you the path, but invites you to take the first step anyway. So I started, not boldly, not confidently, just quietly, 1 hour a day, that's all I gave it. After work, before bed, sometimes when I was exhausted and didn't feel like it. There was no perfect system, no polished plan, just small, imperfect action, and honestly, it didn't feel significant at the time. It felt almost trivial, like, how much can 1 hour really change? But here's what I didn't realize then. Small actions, repeated consistently, don't stay small. They grow, they compound. That 1 hour became a habit, that habit became momentum, and that momentum started building something I couldn't yet see, but I could feel it taking shape. At first I made a mistake that most people make. I focused on what I could sell. I thought about products, pricing, and profit. But nothing really worked. It felt forced, and then something shifted. I stopped asking, what can I sell? And started asking, what do people actually need? That question changed everything. I began to listen. I paid attention to problems people were struggling with. I noticed patterns, and instead of trying to impress people, I tried to help them. That shift from selling to serving was the turning point, because when you genuinely solve a problem, people don't just buy from you. They trust you, and trust is what builds something sustainable. As things started to grow, I realized something important. I couldn't rely on working more hours. I already had a full-time job. There was no extra time to squeeze out. So instead of working more, I had to work differently. I started thinking about leverage. How can I create something once and have it work for me repeatedly? That's when I explored digital products, systems, and content, things that didn't require me to be present every single time. And slowly, I began to shift from trading time for money to building assets. And that's when the side hustle stopped feeling like extra work and started feeling like a system that could grow on its own. But let me be honest about something. There were no big wins in the beginning, no viral moments, no sudden breakthroughs. Just consistency, and consistency is not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's showing up when you don't feel like it. It's doing the work when no one is watching. It's continuing even when the results are invisible. There were days I questioned everything. Days I thought about quitting, but I kept going. Not because I was certain, but because I was committed. And over time, those invisible efforts started to show, slowly, quietly, but undeniably, because consistency over time turns effort into momentum, and momentum into results. Then came the mindset shift that changed everything. I stopped seeing myself as someone who just had a job, and started seeing myself as someone who creates. That shift is subtle, but powerful, because when you think like a creator, you take ownership. You stop waiting for opportunities and start building them. You experiment, you learn, you adapt, you take risks not recklessly, but intentionally. And most importantly, you start building things that exist beyond your time. That's when your work stops being something you do and becomes something you own. And then one day, something happened that felt almost surreal. That small experiment, the one that started with just 1 hour a day, crossed a milestone. A number that once felt impossible, $1 million, and I remember sitting there, not celebrating wildly, but reflecting. Because it wasn't just about the money, it was about what it represented, every late night, every small step. Every moment of doubt, it all added up, not overnight, but over time, and that's when it truly hit me. This was never about building a side hustle. It was about building a different way of thinking, a different way of living. So if you take anything from this, let it be this. You don't need more time, you don't need perfect conditions, you don't need permission. What you need is to start. Start small, start imperfectly, but start, because the life you want isn't built in one big decision. It's built in the small choices you make every single day. And those choices, they matter more than you think. Because one day you'll look back and realize it all started with just 1 hour. We can summarize this as not with a grand business plan, not with funding, not even with certainty, just an idea. And 1 hour a day, phase 1. Start before you're ready. Most people wait for the perfect moment. I didn't. I started messy, late nights, early mornings, weekends. I built something alongside my job, not instead of it. That constraint became my advantage, because when time is limited, you focus only on what matters, no fluff. No distractions, just action. Phase 2, solve real problems. The biggest shift came when I stopped asking, what can I sell, and started asking, what problem can I solve? That's when everything changed. I listened, I paid attention, I looked at what people were struggling with and built something useful. Value first. Always, money came later. Phase 3, build once, scale smart. Here's the truth. You don't need to work more hours. You need to make your work more for you. Instead of trading time for money, I focused on leverage. Digital product systems that run without me, content that reaches people while I sleep. That's how a side hustle becomes something bigger. Not through hustle alone, but through design. Phase 4, stay consistent even when it's boring. No one talks about this part. There were no viral moments at the beginning, no overnight success, just showing up again and again. And again, consistency is not exciting, but it compounds, and over time, small actions become big results. Phase 5, think like a creator, not just an employee. At some point, something shifted. I stopped seeing myself as someone who has a job, and started seeing myself as someone who creates opportunities. That mindset changed everything. Because when you think like a creator, you take ownership, you experiment, you build assets, not just income. The result, that small 1 hour a day experiment. It grew slowly at first, then suddenly, until one day it crossed a milestone I never imagined, $1 million side hustle. Built without quitting my job, built without burning out, built step by step. Final thought, if there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this: you don't need more time. You don't need more resources. You don't need permission. You need to start small, start messy. But start, because the life you want is not built in leaps. It's built in daily decisions. Thank you.